everyone, I'm Sarah from Everyday Starlet. Welcome to my channel. Today we are talking all about contour and highlighting. This is actually a very highly requested video, which surprised me because there are so many contour and highlighting videos out there already that I figured, why would anyone want to watch one that little old me put out? I've actually learned a lot about contour and highlighting from watching some of these other YouTube videos, but then I realized that so many of these videos teach you the exact same technique and they're all showing you what they do, but not really showing you how to relate it back to what you need to do. I mean, if you think about it, everybody's face is different, so everybody's contour and highlighting technique should be different. So I thought I would share with you what I do, but also how you can tailor your contour and highlighting routine to your face. Now, to start off, I just want to say the goal for contour and highlighting should never be to conform to whatever the, norm is or your version of perfection. That's not the point at all. I mean, perfection is, first of all, not achievable because nobody's perfect. And secondly, it's boring. Like, who wants to all look the same, right? So at the end of the day, it's about what makes you comfortable, what you like about your face, what you don't like as much about your face, and how you can sort of accentuate the positive and hide the perceived flaws. I actually used to follow a lot of the contouring techniques that I would see on YouTube videos and Pinterest and stuff. Like, I'd follow them to the T, and I ended up looking a little ridiculous because I was actually doing a lot to features that didn't need help, and I wasn't doing enough to features that I kind of think needed a little bit more help. So at the end of the day, I've kind of learned how to adjust my technique to my face, and I hope I can help you do the same. Now, for starters, I have my hair pulled back for a reason. I actually have all my makeup on except for contour and highlight, but ideally you want to start step one with a bare face and with your hair pulled back. You want to really get a sense of what your face shape looks like. You want to look directly into a mirror and examine your face. Now, I've been doing makeup on myself for forever, and if you have too, you probably have a sense of what your face shape is, what features you like, what features you don't like. But if you're new to makeup or new to contouring and highlighting, you just really want to examine your face. Now, don't be too critical, because we all have features that are great. We all have features that we might not think are great. We actually all have features that we might not like, but other people think are great in us. Don't just critique everything that you see and just be like, I hate everything, because I'm sure that you have good features, and you probably have features that you're not as comfortable with. The ideal face shape that is sort of the one that everyone is kind of trying to achieve is an oval face. Basically, it's just sort of like oval all the way around. And there's other face shapes, of course. There's like the heart, the square. That's not a square. That's a square. There's round, obviously. Boop. And everything in between. To be honest, my face, I feel like, is kind of pear-shaped almost, which I don't even know if that's a face shape. It's kind of like a cross between like a round and a square, I guess, which I'm not crazy about. That's actually why I usually wear my hair down in videos, because I think it slims my face. But at the end of the day, my forehead is pretty narrow, and I have like almost no discernible cheekbones whatsoever. I have very full cheeks, a full face, but my jaw has a little bit of squareness to it at the bottom, which I feel like makes my face look fuller. I personally don't like how full my face is, but I look on the positive side. A fuller face actually makes you look younger for longer. So if you have a fuller face and you're like, I wish I had a thin, long face like all those beautiful supermodels, guess what? They're gonna look older before you, so you gotta look on the positive side. Once you've taken stock as to what features you like, whatever it is that you like, now you kind of have a plan. Darker colors make things look smaller or to recede back, and lighter colors make things bigger or sort of come forward. So that's why the general rule, and really the main thing you need to remember when it comes to highlighting, if something is too big or something that you want to make smaller or sort of less noticeable, you want to contour it. If something is something you want to bring forward or highlight, you want to highlight it. Duh. The next thing you want to do is pick your product. Now when it comes to contouring, I always recommend don't just grab a regular bronzer because those can tend to be a little bit too warm. And that can actually, I feel like, almost call attention to the areas that you're trying to hide from. So I recommend one that has a little bit more of a grayish tone. Obviously, the cooler your skin is, more gray you can go. Honestly, if you're fair-skinned like me, the Anastasia Beverly Hills Contour Kit with this middle shade right here, I find this to be the most flattering contour shade in existence. And that's the great thing about getting something like a kit like this, because you usually get a couple different shades. You can either mix them together or you can find which one is your ideal match for contouring. One thing to remember about contouring though, and a reason why you don't want to get a bronzer, is because a lot of bronzers have shimmer in them or some kind of iridescence. You want to make sure your contour is as matte can be, because any kind of shine or shimmer is going to kind of counteract that contour and it's going to start to highlight and bring things forward. So it's going to defeat the whole purpose. As far as contouring brushes, there's so many options. I mean, so many options out there. These are just a few different brushes that are considered contour brushes. Some people like this really like flat brush, which is actually this one's very stiff. There's some that are more flat, but they have more of an angle to them, like this. There's also some that have more of like a pointed tip here, and then some that are narrow and like a really pointed tip. Honestly, I have ones that I like better than others, but at the end of the day, I think it's just personal preference. It's just trying out what you think works for you. These stiffer and more narrow brushes are going to give you a more defined contour, whereas ones that are a little bit looser and fluffier are going to give you a little bit more of a natural look. That just depends on the look you're going for. Now, as far as highlighters, I mean, you can go from just sort of a very simple highlighter to like BAM highlighter, and I'm sure we've all seen those like BAM highlighters on YouTube. Like strobing was a big thing, which, just to note if you haven't heard the memo by now, the strobing trend is just highlighting. It's another word for highlighting. That's all it is. It's usually like amped up extreme highlighting, but that's all it is, just in case you didn't know. Little language lesson, makeup language lesson for the day. For a really natural look, these are really pricey, but I really love the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powders. This is Ethereal Light, which I love, which is a lighter shade. And I am just addicted to my ambient light palette, which has all these different shades. Some of these are darker, so I wouldn't necessarily use them as a highlighter for me personally because too dark for my skin. But this center one here, which I believe is Incandescent Light, is nice when I don't want to go with something quite as light as Ethereal Light. I'm fair, so I can go pretty light with my highlighters. If you want something more intense, the Anastasia Beverly Hills Starlight Illuminator. Illuminator and highlighter usually interchangeable as far as terms. This is in Starlight, which is one of my favorites. Obviously, I'm Everyday Starlet, Starlight. This one has a much more intense shimmer to it than your Hourglass, which is going to be a little more of a subtle sheen, if you can see that. I think it just depends on what you're going for. I mean, honestly, when it comes to makeup, it's your thing. Do what you want to do. But I will say a more natural highlighter, or, you know, maybe a lighter touch with your highlighter or your contour for day is usually more appropriate, whereas for evening, you can go with that like pow, bam, boom kind of look to it, and that's just a general rule. But honestly, if you want to go all out during the day, do you, boo-boo. Now, when starting with a contour, I recommend always starting with a lighter hand. This is true with any makeup, but with contouring especially, again, you can always add more. It's harder to take away. I'm gonna kind of go into my contour here. I like to shake it off to kind of shake off the excess. If you want to do your forehead, my forehead is quite narrow, and I feel like every time I contour my forehead, it just looks too overdone. But if you have a wider forehead or a larger forehead, you might want to hit the temples here with a little bit of contour. I don't really do that because I don't need it necessarily, and it always ends up looking like too much on me. I'm also not going to do my nose. There's some great nose contouring videos out there with help for that. To be honest with you, I feel like every time I've ever contoured my nose, it looks too much. Because at the end of the day, like, I mean, I don't have the best nose in the world, but I'm pretty happy with my nose the way it is. So I kind of skip the top part of my face because at the end of the day, the top part of my face is more narrow anyway. If that's not true for you, you might want to adjust. But the big thing that I feel like I need to do is, first of all, give myself some cheekbones. I'm gonna start with tucking in my face. Looks hot, right? Right here is where my cheekbones are. You always want to aim for higher, because if you go lower, it doesn't work. You want to suck in your cheeks and aim for right here. You never want to pull down. You always want to make sure that you are keeping upward. One thing that I really like to do, I don't know where I saw someone do this, but I saw someone do this and I have always liked it since then, because I sometimes feel a little awkward where it cuts here, is I come down and then I kind of swoop up a little. I feel like it just, I don't know, gives a little bit more of a cheekbone to me. I don't know. I don't really know the technical reason why. Again, you want to make sure you hit both sides. It might seem like it takes a while, and it probably will in the very beginning, but honestly, once you kind of get used to like what your contour and highlighting technique is for your face, you can do it in no time. Now, here's one thing that I feel like a lot of people, I don't see as many YouTubers do. I do because I feel like I need it, because I have sort of a wider jaw area. And again, you want to be light on this because it can very easily start to look like you didn't blend your makeup. I hit my chin. It's actually more my jawline than my chin. And if it looks a little heavy, don't worry, we're gonna blend. And because I've got a little bit of a chinny chin here, I like to kind of just go right underneath here, just to kind of thin out where my chin hits my neck. This is where a light touch is necessary, and we're actually going to go through and we're going to blend. I'm just going to take, because I forgot to bring my other brush over here. I usually use like a large fluffy like face powder brush to blend, but I forgot to bring that over. So I'm just going to take a regular, just clean brush, or one that just has regular powder on it. I just kind of want to go over and blend kind of like you would your eyeshadow or anything like that. You just want to make sure that there's no harsh lines, and your contour, you don't want to wipe it all off, but you want to make sure it doesn't really look like it's obvious that you have a contour line there. My face already looks a little bit slimmer, I think. I mean, it's not going to work miracles here. I mean, it's not like it's going to look like you just lost 30 pounds overnight or anything. It's just going to kind of help just tighten everything up. I forgot to go over highlighting brushes, so before I get into highlighter, I'm just going to go over a couple different types. Honestly, I feel like any brush will work for highlighter. Sometimes like a smaller brush here, this is actually the contour brush from Real Techniques, whatever. Sometimes I use this for highlighting. This is the Anastasia Beverly Hills one that I actually bought to go along with the illuminators. Or a fan brush is always nice to use. I actually never understood what these were for until I actually saw them in a highlighting video, and I actually really like using these. Now, when it comes to like a natural highlighter, this is what I do. Quick, easy peasy. Sometimes I'll hit the center of my forehead. This can look greasy really quickly, so you want to be careful. But I tend to be okay, and because this is a very subtle highlighter, you'll probably be okay. But if you're using anything with a shimmer in it, be very careful about the center of your forehead, because it can make it just look greasy. I like to go down the center of my nose, maybe just hit the tip of my nose, brings it out a little bit more, makes it look a little bit longer and thinner. I love to hit the Cupid's bow here. I feel like it adds a nice little poutiness to your lips. Chin, I go over the cheeks. Again, because this is such a subtle highlight, I don't really worry too much about anything really. Sometimes I'll go underneath brow bone. I would probably use a smaller brush for that, but again, this is such a natural highlight. You don't really have to be as particular about where you're gonna put things. And honestly, like for just an everyday look, that's probably what I would do. You wanna go a little bit more dramatic with your highlighter. I like to go with a fan brush if I'm gonna go with a more intense highlighter. And I like to just take some, again, you wanna make sure you brush it off, because you don't wanna look like a disco ball. Or maybe you do. I don't wanna look like a disco ball, but if you wanna look like a disco ball, hey, I like disco balls. I'm not judging. What you're gonna do is you're gonna take the fan brush, maybe just on just the tops of your cheekbones. When you're going with a more intense highlighter, you have to be a little bit more precise about where you are putting things. And the top of your cheekbones are gonna help kind of bring out the top, and then the contour recedes, so it makes it look like you have more of a cheekbone. One thing I really like to do with a highlighter is just sort of, which is why the fan brush is so nice, just go right down the bridge of the nose, and then I take the fan brush and hit the Cupid's bow I hit the chin to kind of just bring out, essentially, this is kind of bringing out the center of the face, which will slim the sides because this will be brighter, so it brings this forward, which makes this naturally look thinner. I can even go in, you can do this with eyeshadow too, like just highlight your brow bone, but sometimes if I've forgotten to do it with eyeshadow, I'll just go in and add a little bit of a highlighter to the brow bone. And one thing I really like to do, you could do this with a tiny brush, I tend to just do this with my finger, is to just sort of put a little bit on your finger, just dot the inner corner of your eye. Gives it a nice little sparkle. And lastly, you just want to admire yourself in the mirror at all your fabulousness. So I hope you guys found this video helpful. I do know a lot of you requested that I do a contour and highlighting video, so I hope you found this helpful. If I missed anything or if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, please leave them in the comments section below or just say hi. I'd love to hear from you. Make sure you subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my future videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you join me next time.